Hey there YouTube, this is SGM4306 and it finally happened. Freaking finally! After, oh god, I don't know, how long has the NES Classic been out? For something like 2 years, I guess, or something. They were pretty much impossible to get for the longest time, and I finally got one. So I ordered this guy online. For both these guys, I paid retail. I refused to give in to scalpers and pay, greater than retail prices. So finally happy that I got these. And so this is the NES Classic Edition, which is, from what I hear, pretty much identical internally to the SNES Classic here. But I want to open this up myself and see exactly what we're dealing with, and also open up the controller as well, just like I did for the SNES Classic. So let me just move these boxes, and we'll get right into this. So this is a console itself, and just by the way, this cord is so tiny. I heard it was short, but I did not think it would be this short. You literally have to be within arm's reach of the console, which is kind of ridiculous. But the controller itself feels very nice. It feels literally just like an original NES controller. So anyway, kind of similar layout with the SNES Classic. There's a latching power supply, a momentary reset button, and you have your obligatory HDMI and DC input. Anyway, let's get this guy open. It's just going to be pretty much the same as the other one, the SNES Classic. I'm going to need some tweezers to get into here, so give me a sec. Okay. Okay, so actually just top lifts off totally. Interestingly enough, these little plastic pieces are just kept in by plastic little pegs or so. So we could remove those. Not gonna, because there's a small chance that you could actually break these tabs. But anyway, yeah, interesting attention to detail. Instead of just having it painted, they're actually differently colored. So very nice. There's an interesting plastic ridge on there. I wonder exactly why. Maybe structural or something to make it stiffer. But that's interesting nonetheless. Other than that, yeah, of course, everyone's biggest concern when it first came out was, does this little tiny door pop open? And no, it's actually molded in there, unfortunately. That would have been really cute if this opened up and they had like fake little carts or something. I don't know. I'm thinking way too deeply into this. Anyway, we have one more screw here if we wanted to remove the ports themselves. Not entirely necessary, but we can get into here. There's one screw here, it looks like, for the buttons. And probably had to remove the board. Okay, so we can see here, wiggle the controller ports out. There we go. And the board should more or less lift out by this point. And there we go. So yeah, this board, as far as I can tell, the metal shielding plate might even be the same as well, but it's pretty much identical. Yeah, we have the I'm not going to explain this all over again. If you guys are interested, I will link the SNES Teardown. I go through what all the components do. This is identical. Just the firmware on the flash chip here. Remove this. The firmware on this flash chip here will be different, obviously, for the NES version versus the SNES. But as far as I can see, everything else looks identical, even down to these test points. Now, I have heard that this is the 2018 version, the re-release version of this. The original NES Classic is mostly the same, but the test points down here are different, and I think maybe some of the layout is slightly different, but the components are the same. Anyway, yeah, pretty cool either way, but let's see. I'm interested in these buttons. So there's a plastic shroud that comes out, and then a little spring and a tact switch in there. And that just gets pushed when you hit the reset. Power is just one of those regular old latching mechanical switches, so nothing special about that. And we have a light pipe to the LED, which is situated down there. And I don't think there's an easy way of getting this out. Yeah, I mean, you can wiggle this out. There is a little bit of wiggle room, but not strictly necessary. I'm just gonna put this back in there, figure out how exactly it goes. Yeah, something like that. Okay, yeah. Anyway, the controller ports, as I said, are held in by this screw in this mounting bracket. Very cute attention to detail. There's a like a dark red 1 and 2 for the controller ports, just like there would be on the original console. So that's awesome. Anyway, so now let's look at the controller itself. So just 6 screws. Yeah, the back, the labeling is completely different, more or less, than the original NES console controller. It does have this, it's similar, it does have this, like, what do you call this, like an inset with some text, but on the original controller, none of this information's on there. But the rest of the molding is pretty accurate with this little detent there. Inside does look different, though. Similar to the SNES Classic controller, there are pronounced, standoffs inside the plastic to support the back of the board, as well as they did a good job with the strain relief on these guys. This is also I2C as well, and I believe, I haven't tried this myself, but it's cross-compatible. You can use a SNES Classic on a NES Classic. You can use a controller for one for the other, basically. So here, similar, it's pretty much, same but different layout than the SNES Classic controller in terms of the buttons and the carbonized film. But where it differs is that this actually uses a different chip. The other one, I believe, was a quad flat pack or something like that. This is just a wide SOIC. But it's pretty much the same functionality. There is something interesting here, I see. There's a diode symbol here. And I have no idea what that's referring to specifically. But yeah, there's no diodes in the circuit, so I wonder what's up with that. And there's actually another spot for a chip right in here, which is unpopulated. If you actually look at some of the traces, it seems that they go to some of the pads here. So maybe there's another chip that they had slated for use in this. Who knows? But yeah, other than that, pretty interesting. There's actually a barcode. It looks like it's maybe etched into the... No, it's actually printed on there. But there's a lot of text that's actually etched into the silkscreen, it looks like. Pretty nice touch there. But yeah, the board shape is very similar to the original NES controller board shape from memory. It might not be exact, though. But if we take a look at the buttons, these membranes are definitely different. Definitely. From what I remember. I happen to remember, I think they're laid out diagonally, these little anti-rotation pieces. So that's a marked difference right there. Start and select are fairly similar, I think, but maybe the placement of this is a little different. And we have the D-pad, of course. There we go. D-pad looks largely the same, I believe. And it even is similar down to the fact that there is this little hole in the original NES controller as well. And I'm not sure why, but that's interesting. One cool mod that I've done in the past for my original NES controllers is if you carefully drill a hole through this plastic shell right underneath the A and B, and then if you cut out a square or a rectangle rather, under the Nintendo emblem, you can put LEDs behind it and backlight them. So that might be pretty neat to do with this. But you do need to remove this plastic film first so that you can drill through it without damaging anything. But yeah, anyway, this is actually pretty similar in terms of the construction to the SNES Classic, so nothing really that surprising there. I wasn't really expecting much different. Now, what will be interesting is to see if they come out with N64 Classic and greater or whatnot, maybe Game Boy Classic. That would be fascinating.